Hi everyone, and welcome to the part 8 of this course. My name is Ogudimolumide Olalikon, the founder of Microsoft Technologies, and in this video we are going to be talking about CSS margin, padding and border. So I'm going to be keeping it as short as possible, and please, if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button, and if you always want to get updated about my next video, kindly click on the bell icon. All right, let us get started. Okay, in our last class, which was the part 7 of this course, we talked about how to style our CSS body, and we also do a brief introduction to CSS. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about some other important aspect of CSS, which is the padding, the margin and the border. All right, let's talk about it now. And before we go about it, let's quickly go to our project, and this is our last project, and let's click on it, my sites folder. Let me just go back again, open that my sites folder. If you have been following my video from chapter 1 to this very stage, this is the part 8 now. So open this folder that we created on the desktop, which is my sites, and let's talk about it now. So now let's talk about the project. Let's open the project on our browser. Open the simple blog. I think that was where we stopped. Yeah, this is where we stopped in the last class. Simple blog, right? And if you missed the previous class, I'm going to drop the link to the previous classes on the description section, so you can also check it out, so that you can get along with it. After this class, we are going to do 1 or 2 videos on CSS, then we'll start building projects. Okay, all right, so let's talk about it now. Let us open our project in our VS Code, which is our code editor. You go to your VS Code, and let us open the code editor. Yeah, so I'm going to be opening a new folder. Opening a folder rather, and that folder is on my desktop, and the name of the folder is my site. That's it. You don't need to open it here, just click on it to make sure it's showing here. You understand? Then you select folder, so everything's going to be open, right? All right, let me expand this guy. Yeah, so when you're talking about CSS padding, margin and border, they usually go in line. That's why I'm going to be talking about it together. Now let us talk about it now. And before we talk about it, let me quickly do something. Let's go to that simple blog.html where we stopped, and don't forget that we have talked about external CSS, how to add our CSS externally, which was the standard way of which is the standard way of writing CSS, you understand? So I talked about it in the last class. So now let us talk about this, our first article, because then we were using ID selector to select this stuff. We were using ID selector, and I told you, whenever you want to use an ID selector, use the @ sign followed by the name of the ID, and ID is a unique identifier. For example, this first article, which is having an ID of first article, I want to select it here. Then I go back to my external CSS, and I just selected it by using the @ sign, which is the selector for an ID. All right, let's talk about margin and padding now. Let's go back to that page and see the first article. Can you see this first article now? It's having a background of black and blah blah blah. All right, so let's talk about it now. Let's go to our article, and let's do something now. Let us apply a margin to it. And before that, let me show you something. Let's talk about the CSS box model. I have it here. Now, let me quickly explain it so that I can get what I'm saying better. When you're talking about margin, okay? Now, go to your page, or go to this page now. Can you see the screen now? This content that is here now, this particular content that is here, I just want to open that image very well. This particular content, where you have the content, the space around the content is your padding. Hello? The space around the content is your padding. So immediately after the padding, you have your what? You have your border. So after the padding is what? Is the border, something that looks like a frame. You understand? But if this is the content, then any space around the content, so you can determine this is this box inside here. This content, this box, it is the content. But you can determine the spaces around the content, and that's what they call what? Padding. Then after the padding, you have what? You have your border. Then the spaces between the border and the entire page is what they call what? Margin. Can you see now? It's what they call what? Margin. So this is the entire content now, and that's the margin. Let us quickly go to that our code, and let me explain it better. Now I'm going to be applying padding to this particular div, this article, first article div. Now look at this particular content. Now can you see that this hot news is too close to the brim of this black div, you understand? And look at this picture itself, it's somehow close. So we need spaces around this guy. Like we apply to this simple block. You know, there's a space up here and there's a space here. These are called the padding. This is the content. The content is simple block, but the spaces around it is what is called padding. You can see we have the padding left, you have the padding right, you have top and bottom. And can you notice a gap between this guy and this guy? And that's what they call margin. But we are going to be talking about that now. Now let's first do something now. Let's talk about margin. Now you notice that there are spaces around this document. Look at this box. This is the div that we highlighted, and there are spaces around it. Now what we can do, can you see now? This is the div, and we have this little space around there. These are the what? These are the margin. Now you know when you are trying to rule out your exercise book and you draw a margin, all those things. So that's margin, the space between your content and the entire width of the page. Okay, now let's talk about it now. You go to your blog style.css, then that body tag, let's add some other stuff to the body tag. Let us add margin to it, and I'm going to be saying that the margin is none. I'm going to be setting the margin to what? To none or 0. Let's set it to 0, and let's see what's going to happen. Let us save and let us see our page. I've already set the margin of the body to what? To 0. If you are following this class, you should know what I'm talking about by now, because we started this in the last class. So talk about it now. Let's refresh. Can you notice that there's no more spaces around this box now? You understand? There's no more space there. You can go to the footer, everything has been aligned. There's no space. I've set the margin of the body to what? To 0. So if you now want to set margin to any of your documents, you can now do that by using what a selector. You understand? Now let's talk about it again now. Go to that your style.css now. Now let's talk about margin. For this, my first article div, I want to apply a margin there as well. margin, but this time around I want to apply a margin top. I want to apply a margin top of sorry, it's dark here. Yeah, I want to apply margin top of let's just apply 2 rem. You can use pixel, but you know rem is bigger than pixel actually, and I think I talked about that in my previous classes as well, one of the classes. So now let's look at what's going to happen now if I refresh this page. I already apply a margin top, and that margin top is going to determine the gap between this content and this blue div that is there. That's margin. This is outside, this is the content, this black content, but the space around it compared to the page that it is, you understand, that's what the margin. But now I refresh it now, let's see what's going to happen now. Okay, that it seems that 2 rem is not noticeable. Let's apply 4 rem to it. Let's apply 4 rem to it. I think that should be noticeable. Can you now see now it moves downward? There's now a space, right? So I can also determine the margin left. These are the spaces around the container and the entire content, you understand? If I should go back again and apply the margin top to be 5 rem, and let me save it. Now if I click on it again, can you see now it's shifting this box downward? That's margin top. I'm creating a space between this div and this div. That's margin. All right, let's talk about the margin left. I can also apply a margin left to it. I can make the margin left to be equals to, let's make that one 10 rem. I just want to see something. You know, we are still playing, okay? We are still going to do some cool stuff in this course. Now let's go back to it and refresh. I'm expecting this guy to shift like this, to shift to the right, because I'm applying a space between this content and this width of this page, you understand? So I'm applying a space between this guy and this guy, you understand? That's a margin. It's not in any way in line with the content. You understand? I'm not talking about the content inside this box yet. I'm only talking about outside this box. I'm talking about outside. When I'm talking about outside the box, outside the div, I'm talking about margin. If I want to apply spaces around or outside the div, I'm talking about what? The margin. So let me now refresh now, because I apply margin left. Can you see that it's shifted to the right? If I still apply more to it, margin left, I want it to shift. I want to create enough space at the left side. I can make this guy 20 rem. Let's see what's going to look like. You know, it's going to help you a lot in your styling. Can you now see now? I've shifted it. The margin left is now what? Is now 20 rem. Okay. Now let's go back again. I can also apply a margin right. Let me just, yeah, let's leave it like that. I'm going to apply a margin right. Margin right. The margin right of I'm going to do that as 10 rem. Let's see what's going. I'm going to create a space on the right side of this container. Yeah, you know why? The margin left is too much. Let us reduce that to 10 as well, because it's calculating it 10. So I've given it the margin right now. So there's no longer spaces for it at the right. That's why it doesn't affect it. So the answer, I've created a space around the right. But sometimes I always like it to be even. It depends on what you are actually doing. So this is 10, which is cool. Now I can also create a margin bottom. Margin bottom. So margin bottom, I can create that one as what? As 6 rem. We're just playing around it, okay? Now let's save it and go back to our browser. I'm expecting the space between this black div and this red div to be more. You understand? Because I've already applied some other margin. Can you now see? So margin is the space around this particular container, outside it. The space outside it. You understand what I'm saying now? The space outside it is what they call what? Margin. You understand what I'm trying to say now? Fine. I believe you understand it like that. So let us now talk about padding now. What is padding? So if you go back to this page now, let's quickly go back to that page where I talk about the picture. Where do I have it here? Yeah, this guy. So this is the margin. Now look at this container here. This old container now. The margin is the space around it. Look at the document. Look at the entire page. And the space around this box here and this content is what is the margin. You understand? So let us talk about padding now. Now, if I want to talk about padding, then definitely I'm referring to the content inside. I also want to create a space inside. You understand? I want to create a space inside. Quick one. Before I go further into the padding, let me tell you something. In case you don't want to apply the margin to each of the part of the div, you understand? You can, if you want to apply a single margin to all of them, let me just comment this guy out. You understand? You just say, I taught you how to comment. You just highlight it and you press Ctrl /, or if you are using the Mac, you press Command /. So on this one now, if I don't want to specify margin top right, bottom left, now I've already commented it out. Now if I go back and refresh now, it's going to get rid of the margin and everything. It's going to get it back to the normal place. All right, so I can just decide to apply a normal margin, a general margin. I'm not going to specify the top or bottom or whatever. I'm just going to say margin. I can just give it a margin of 10. So if I give it a margin of 10, it means all the corner will have the same margin. I want to create an even space around all of them. You understand? Oh, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? Yeah, I didn't write 10 rem. I only wrote 10. So I have to put the unit there. You understand? And I refresh now. Can you now see now? They all have equal spaces around. Okay. And don't forget that this one has a margin bottom before. You understand? Probably that's what makes it like that. All right, that's cool. Now let's now talk about, I think that 10 rem is too much. I'm going to give it like, let's give it like 6. Let's give it like 6, the margin of 6. So general margin of 6. And yeah, it's fine. Okay. All right. So what else? Okay. Yeah, let's talk about it now. So that's margin for you. Now let's not talk about padding now. If you are talking about padding, you're talking about the spaces inside this content, the spaces between this box and the content inside it. Look at this text now. This paragraph: Legrosoft Technology is the best web development company in Africa. Now this paragraph now is somehow close to the wall of this black div. Now I want to apply spaces between the content inside this my div. You understand? I want to put space around the content. Look at this hot news. I want to apply spaces inside. So that's why I'm going to talk about what? Padding. I want to give it a bit of padding so that there's going to be space around it. You understand it now? Let's talk about it now. So I can go here and say, I'm talking about this same first article. I can apply a padding, a general padding. I can say a padding of what? 10 rem is okay for them, for all the content inside. And then if I save it by clicking on Ctrl S or Command S and I refresh, can you now see now it gives what? A padding of 10, up, left, right. You understand? It has at least created spaces around them. Though this is too much, but I can go back to adjust it. I'm just playing with it. I can make it to be what? To be like I used to like let's say 4 rem is okay. Depending on what you are doing, you can always play with it. You understand? At least you just have to check if it's befitting enough or if it's up to what you are expecting. Okay, now I think this is cool. Now there are now spaces around this content. This content, look at the content here. These guys, and this black div. There's spaces inside the content now, so everything is not that strong. Look at this second one now, that we don't apply padding to it. Look at the way it is. So you can always apply padding to space the content inside your div. Okay, I think this is getting nice now. All right. So the same way you can also apply the padding. Let's say you only want to apply spaces between the content at the top alone. You understand? I only want to apply to this hot news. You understand? Maybe the other ones are okay or whatever. Maybe the one what you want. Maybe you want more spaces for this hot news alone or whatever. Or probably this. Look at this button now. Look at this button now and this guy. The button and the text. Yeah, fine. This is the old content, but look at this button and the text. You can as well apply a padding to this button as well, so that at least it's going to align with it. Okay, let's talk about it now. I'll go back to my content. Let's see that button, learn more button in this div. You understand? Let's give it an ID. Let's give it an ID of an ID equals to, don't forget it's an attribute, so I'm going to put my double quotation. I'll call it an ID of BTN. You understand? If I give an ID of BTN, then I'll go to my class and I'm going to select the BTN, right? Because I want to start the BTN. You understand? Because now this time around I'm starting the BTN. Sorry, it's an ID. I'm going to put @ sign. That's it. Sign. It's a bit dark here. Okay. All right. So let's do that now. So I just want to apply. The first thing I'm going to do is this now. So for me to start this button now, it's going to be a margin between this text and this button. It's a margin because this button itself is a box on its own. So I'm going to bring a margin so that it's going to create a space outside the button. You understand? So I can just create a space. I'll just give it a margin top. You understand? It's a margin top now. So let's give the margin top of 2 rem. You understand? Now if I save it now, let's look at what the button is going to look like. What's up? Yeah, there is a little bit space there. You understand? Let's see. 2 rem, is it too small? 3 rem. I'm talking about the button and I've already assigned a class. Where is it? Yeah, I have to save it here. Don't forget, if your cursor is still pointing to this thing, you might not see your changes. So let's go back again and refresh. Okay. Now let's talk about it now. Now we are still on that padding. I believe this is fine enough. This is cool enough. So that's that about padding. It is used to create spaces around the word. Inside the word, the content. You understand? Between the content and the word and the box inside. You understand? So now another thing again we're going to talk about is the word, is the border, and that's going to mark the end of this class. We're going to talk about the border. So let's talk about the border now. Now let's go to that. We are still on the first div and we are still styling the first div. Okay, let's talk about it now. So I'm just going to go to this guy now. I'm going to go to this guy and I'm going to style the border. I'm just going to apply a border, border. Now the border of what? Of let's make it 2 pixel. That's how to apply border. 2 pixel. What kind of border am I applying? A solid border. And what is the color of the border? Let's make the color of the border to be red. You understand? So let's go now. You know, it's just a box. Now you see what I'm talking about now. This is the word. This is the border. Can you now see that the margin is after the border? Okay, let me make this guy thicker. You understand? 2 pixels is too small. Let's give it like 3 pixel or 4, so that we can get what we are talking about very well. And it's a solid border. That's why I specify the type of border that I have here, and I save it and I click on it. Can you now see now it's noticeable now? So the spaces between this border and this and the space outside this border is what they call the margin. Inside the border it is inside the border and between the content and the border is what is called what? The padding. You understand it now? All right. Let me quickly talk about one more thing before I go, and let's talk about one more thing before I go, and that's the word, the class selector. We have been talking about ID since all this while, so let us quickly talk about the class selector. All right, let's talk about the class selector. Now, how do we select using classes? You know, I told you have several types of selector, and I'm going to talk about what ID and what and the class selector. But I've talked about ID selector, and it's a unique identifier. Sorry, an identifier. It's a unique identifier, but the class can be used for every other bearer of that class name. You understand? If, for example, you are in a school and you know you have an admission number or ID number or a matric number, it's only yours, which is a unique number for you alone. But when I'm calling the student in a particular class, I'm referring to as many people that will be in that class. Now let's talk about the class selector now. Let's go back to our code, and let's go back to our code now. Now let's talk about you know what, let's do something. Let's go to our page. This is our page, right? Simpleblog.html, and I'm on that first article. Okay, I'm on this first article. What again? What am I saying here? Okay, now instead of making this button an ID, I want to make this button to be a class. Okay, I'll just say class. Can you see now? Is equals to, just an attribute, the same way you specify your attribute. I'll call it button, button. That's the name of the class, button. You understand? Now, if you want to select a class, how do you select a class? You go to your CSS and select the class. Don't forget, don't highlight it. Make sure you save it and it's not highlighted. Go to your CSS. I want to style my button now. You understand? I just say dot. I use what? I use the period sign, which is the dot sign followed by the class name. That is how, and followed by my bracket. That's how we select what class in CSS. This is the curly bracket. Don't forget. If it is an ID, it's going to be arch. But if it's a class, it's going to be what? Button. You understand? So now let's do something for this button. Now let's change the background color of this button. Let's change the background color of the button to be what color? Give me one color. I think this green is okay. I mean, what's the cat trails or whatever. Hey, I've told you, if you want to get color, you can go online and check for HTML color picker. So you get a lot of colors there, right? So let's see now. This is the class that has the btn. Okay. Now let's do something to it again. I don't like that btn. I don't like that button. Look at it very well now. Tell me what you can apply to this button. Look inside this button now. Fine. I still need some spaces around the text inside the button. You understand? And this button, this content that is there, this lemon button, I need some space around it inside this box, right? And that's what they call what? Padding. So let us add some padding to the button. I'll go to now my button class. I'll just apply padding to it, and I'll apply the padding to it, and I'll make the padding to be what? Let's say 2 rem is going to be fine. Yeah, 2 rem is fine, right? Just go there now. Yeah, 2 rem is too big. Okay, 2 rem is too big. It's too big. It's too big. I've told you you can even make 0.5 or whatever rem, less than 1. You can do that. Let's check 1 rem. I know that it's going to be big as well, but it's going to be a bit better than that. All right, it is cool as well, and that's it. Can you now see that the button is covering our content? You understand? It's covering this content. Another thing you can do is, well, let's first reduce the padding. Let's reduce this to what? To 0. Let's use 7, something close to 1, and let's see. Can you now see now? Now that's cool, right? Now, all right. You know what? To quickly fix this out, let us go back to our page, HTML page, and before that button, you know, that button is not even a button before. It's actually an anchor tag, a link. I'm just trying to style it like a button. So just go back to this, because we know it's normally supposed to be, and it's an inline tag. You understand? So let us apply one more break tag to just save ourselves the time, and just apply one more break tag there, and let's go check it on our browser to see if it's going to work out. So let's refresh now, and fine, I think it's fine like this, right? So that's just it now. So in my next class, we are going to be talking about CSS class selector properly, and as well we are going to be talking about how to style CSS form, how to style an HTML form. You understand? How to create a good form and all those things. So meet me in the next class, and if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please try to do that. And if this is your first time watching my video, I have a lot of videos there, and this is just the part 8 of this course. You can check the description link to check for the other courses. You understand? So take care, and I will see you in the next class. Bye bye.